Welcome to second podcast of Hacklab Solutions. Today we have with us Mr. Vikram Rastogi, who is the founder and CEO of Hacklab Solutions, and Mr. Ganesh, who is a coach, mentor, and leadership consultant with 40 plus years of experience of leading businesses in South Asia and Asia Pacific region. The topic of today's discussion is twofold. First of all, we'll open it for discussion about our current plan of podcast series and our future. And later on, we'll go back and discuss important points from our first podcast. But first, I will ask Mr. Vikram to introduce himself.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for hosting such a innovative podcast. And I hope with this series that we are doing, people will learn a lot about not just safety, but also the issues that are there in the safety world and just normal processes as well. To give a brief idea about Hacklab Solutions and our brand tracker per se, I will just give an idea about what kind of solutions we are offering. It will be a brief discussion, and if anyone is interested, we can have a one-on-one conversation afterwards. Hacklab basically started in 2017. It started as a innovation company. So we wanted to develop some innovative products in the industrial space. And when we started, one of the major issues that we found in the industry right now is that a lot of importance is given on the production. So there are a lot of solutions, a lot of companies who are innovating, who are developing solutions for increasing the productivity of people while they're working or while they're doing their work on the site, right? But not enough importance was given for improving or bringing in technology to solve safety and other major issues which are equally important or if not more, but there is hardly any involvement of technology in that right now. So that is where we found that okay, because of my background, because of my technical know-how, I felt that this is something that should change. Life is more important than money, so there has to be more importance given, and technology has to be used for solving some major problems that we are facing in the safety industry. So that was the idea, and that's how we started. So in 2017 we started developing solutions for safety. We started incorporating technology into our products. We started with a major problem which is prevalent in almost all the industries, which is collision between man and machine. So when a machine is working, which is especially heavy machinery, how can we control it? How can we ensure that machine does not uh, by chance or by any accident hit a person and cause major injury, right? So we started with developing such solutions. We used a lot of sensors for that, and then over time we have added more and more things into our portfolio. So now we are also using IoT and AI together, so we call it AIoT. That is being used actively right now to not just prevent accidents from happening but also to improve the safety culture. For example, we operate some cameras on the site. They can be existing cameras like CCTV cameras, or we put our own cameras, and we basically detect if a person is wearing the proper safety gear when they are operating in areas, right? So one of the major flaw is in most of the other implementation is that they are mostly monitoring solutions. So post an incident happens, they will give you an alert. But our system, that whatever systems we are designing, we want to make sure that it's a real time alert is coming to the person on the ground. So whatever AI we are using, it's not just a monitoring tool, or it's not just a tool which can give you information or give you a data point to work on later on. So it's a real time action tool, so that our system will decide okay, this particular thing is wrong, and then it will make sure that on the ground somebody is there who is taking a notice of it. Either we put speakers or we put some actuators, we can control traffic lights, we can control a lot of things to make sure that on the ground whoever is there, that person is understanding that there is a problem and then taking an action on it. And then on top of it, you can give alerts to the upper management. Okay, these kind of issues are very prevalent, or these kind of issues are happening more often. You can take these measures to control it. So that comes after that. But the basic idea is that our system should not just be a monitoring tool. Our technology cannot be a monitoring tool. Technology has to assist in making things more safe for people on the ground, and also to improve their quality of work. right? So many times you might be going to a site, and by mistake, most of the times people by mistake, they will not be following the rules. It's not like they are willfully not following the rule. It's just that they are concentrating on some production work and forgot about the major rule which is there, and that may have resulted in some major accident. So that is where these technologies can come into play. So that is what we are trying to build, and yeah, I will leave it at that for now.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you, Vikram, for sharing. Ganesh sir, you have been associated with safety industry for a long time, and you have also mentored Vikram and associated with Hacklab Solutions. Please share with us your thoughts on how the industry, the safety industry, has transformed in last 20 years, and how Hacklab has grown over the years since its
Sure,
inception.
sure. Very good. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks to Vikram and Amber, both of you. And maybe a quick introduction, just to establish my credibility to talk about the subject which I am talking. Then I will move into talking about these 20 years. See, I have got more than 40 years experience. First 10 years was in Indian company in a very highly hazardous manufacturing situations. We used to make hydrofluoric acid, which is one of the most hazardous acids and difficult to handle type. And then from there, I moved to a multinational company which has already nearly 200 years of existence. That company has made their own brand associated with safety for long. Anybody knowing safety will know the brand DuPont. That was the company which I joined in early 90s. And the first 10 years was associated with the chemical business of that company. So the way chemical business is done by DuPont is very different from many other companies doing chemical business, because we were selling chemical. Along with that, we were also sharing our knowledge. Early 2000, that company decided to set up their own consulting division for safety. At that time, safety was considered as a freebie in India. Nobody can do any consulting. You will give advice, and if people follow, they follow. But India situation was like, safety hoga to hoga, nahi to nahi hoga, like that sort of a situation was there. When I was the first employee and I was given the task to set up the business, and the first 5-10 years of that existence of that business, we have worked with most of the Indian companies, and we have worked on transforming the culture of safety of those companies. And so that was probably the closest to my heart sort of a business. And I was very happy that I was helping people to improve their safety right from, say, early 2000. When I came to know that Vikram is setting up this and then trying to bring in technology to improve safety, obviously it was by choice that I thought that I'll start connecting with him. And that has, I think, been a pretty good relationship we had. Really helping, because if you really look at it, safety, the fundamentals of safety has got only three things. You may have many companies talk many elements, but to me, the fundamental is only three things. One is related to manufacturing, technology, and machinery. Second is related to systems, processes, and management systems included in that. Third is related to people. And people, when we talk about people's competency, people's capability, and people culture, this is the three big boxes of safety. And when looking futuristically, if we can take the IT solutions and improve the people capabilities, people ability to manage their life, that is where I think Vikram is trying to do with AI, IoT, or that's what is the solution which he started doing in India from 2017. So it's perfectly working between the people and technology space, but more towards people. That's what is interesting in that. So now, what has happened in India last 20 years? India rightfully is saying we are going to be the 21st century country, right? And if you really look at it, safety has changed in the thinking of safety has changed in many companies, but there are many more companies in India who need a lot of work to do. There, those companies which has really changed by choice are those companies which are working on the culture of people, capability of people. They are doing a transformational change, whereas the other companies are waiting for something to happen. And most of the times, the talk of safety happens in these companies after an accident, and then it will probably happening for a few weeks or maybe at most few months. And a lot of people talk about we need to do something, and then once that accident experience is forgotten, they go back to their original way of thinking, and people bypass safety and then walk in a different direction. The major issue with respect to just having a people focus, and if we want to be a 21st century leading economy, we need to also combine the people capabilities along with technology capabilities. We do have good IT brains sitting in the country, but those IT brains don't understand the problem of the manufacturing industry. And manufacturing industry is now losing more and more ability to hire the best people because they end up going to the IT. This is happening today. Like even if people join the best of companies in manufacturing, they always are looking for changing within the next 12 months or 24 months, go back to IT sector. So how do we change it? Probably by bringing more IT solutions into manufacturing and managing safety there. So that's where I think what Vikram is doing is going to help. And this podcast, probably we would like to focus on futuristic aspects of safety like that. And India as a country not only has taught the world many things in the past, we can also teach the world many things in safety because we have our own experiences in this country. And that will be what I think we should be focusing on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience with us. So now, basically, the podcast is open for questions. And I was thinking while you were speaking about the three important pillars, I was just thinking, do we prioritize one of the pillars more than the others, or how do we distinguish between the three?
It's actually a triangulation, and it's an equal sided triangle is how I will picturize it, because I don't think we can prioritize one over the other. Yes, something will have to happen first before we focus on something else, but from a sustainability perspective, all three will have to be focused always. What I mean is that when a company is setting up their new manufacturing operation, obviously their focus will be on the machinery part of safety. They have to ensure everything they think about the project machinery or project, putting the project together, they have safety integrated into that thinking. So that's why that machinery part will be taken care first. But then even when they do that, they will be hiring people, and then so when the people come in, people's part of safety also needs to be considered. We need to work on bringing cultural component into the thinking of people. And if people don't think about safety from the day they, it's not going to be easy for them to manage it later. Management has to communicate, management has to set the standard, management has to put the right processes in place. So for that, the third side of the triangle, so it's a triangulation with all the three being equal. So prioritization per se, when you have only three, I really don't think you need to prioritize. I think all the three has to be done in parallel.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So, sir, I have a question here. So, recently we have been seeing so many accidents happening, right? What is the reason for it? Is there a lack of preparedness from the companies, or they do not give importance to safety that much that these accidents happen, or there is some kind of a lax behavior that some employees are having? What would be the exact reason for having so many accidents happening in India so frequently?
Sure. Actually, I would like to take a question and then relate to the changes happening in the safety industry of late. Earlier, people used to call it safety, and of late, good organizations, the best practice organizations, are using the word operations risk management. They are no more calling it safety, because when you do any activity, there is an operations risk, more so in manufacturing activity. Look at the scales of manufacturing versus, I am in manufacturing from early 80s. If I look
Right.
at the manufacturing size, I
Right.
will give you a live example of two polymer companies based out of Mumbai those days. Uh, no Sill and Pill used to be the name.
Okay.
And the size of those two companies is smaller than a pilot plant of many of the manufacturing companies today. So in 80s, what was supplying, early 80s or before 80s, you can say, what two plants were supplying polymers to the whole India and petrochemicals to the whole India. Today, those two large plants are smaller than a pilot plant of the large companies. So that's the way you look at the scale of manufacturing. So when your scale of manufacturing goes up, obviously the operations risk goes up.
Right.
So when we try to manage safety, the thinking was we have to operate safely. Now
Right.
I think that concept has to change, because people are, I'm not saying you cannot operate safely. That is wrong. I'm not advocating that, thinking that uh, accidents will happen. That is going back 30, 40 years. I'm
Right.
not advocating that, but at the same time, people have to be cautious. Every day they have to manage their operations risk, and managing operations risk is what is the focus of safety. So what has again happened? Those days, even today in many companies, safety is managed by safety department, safety
Right.
organization. Whereas when you change the thinking and then say operations risk management, the operations risk has to be managed by
The operations team, yeah, everybody.
operations team, maintenance team, safety team, finance team, everybody. So there, when you have large scale, these things won't happen. And today, because of social media, because of the so many television channels, all these news gets publicized and picked up fast and reaches everybody. So that is another reason why organizations have to become much more cautious about being safe.
Right.
See, we talk about this start fire, which has happened on one of the Tata electrical company or something. That's what I was also reading today in the news item. How much effort Tata is putting as a group on improving people's safety. I don't think we need to debate that. In
Yeah.
India, they are one of the most
Safety conscious.
effective
Yeah.
and safety conscious. They spend so much of money, but just one accident today, making as if every Tata unit is
So it
bound
affects
to
the
be fire.
brand. Yeah.
It affects the brand. So that is the type of impact safety has on the business.
Right.
So the new or the 21st century safety, if we want to be a manufacturing country, we need to start thinking safety is not safety. Safety is operations risk management, and safety is not safety. Safety is business value. These
Perfect.
two
Yeah.
things, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So basically, people have to not just look at safety from the point of view of that you are saving a life or you are preventing an
Yes,
accident, but you are also
correct,
preventing operations from getting hampered. One day of an
correct.
accident, so one day an accident happens and it causes so much destruction or so many issues on the site that it
Yes.
hampers your productivity to a large extent, and that is something that everybody has to realize.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that's it. Actually, sometimes I always talk about this Surf, or I think it's Surf or Ariel, one of the two detergent brands. Daag bhi acha hai
Ah,
used to be the
because
used
adag
to be
achhe hote,
the
right?
ad. Many ads used to. So
Right.
sometimes safety incidents are good.
Right.
Because of Union Carbide, process safety has become the key focus of not only chemical industry, not only petrochemical industry, not only oil gas industry, entire manufacturing industry today
And not just in
is looking
India,
at process safety.
and not just in,
Not only in India,
yeah, everywhere.
everywhere globally. So Union Carbide happening has changed the process safety situation globally, and that's the benefit. 3000 जन मरे, it's a bad thing, but still that created something, and maybe it has saved several crores of people.
That only happens because in our normal day-to-day life, we only consider big accidents to be accidents. Small accidents are ignored.
Accidents.
So
True,
there are
true.
people, thousands of people who are dying yearly because of lot of safety issues, but nobody
Sure.
talks about it. But if a big accident happens, if some leakage happens which causes a loss of life for so many people, then it becomes a news item, and then everybody starts talking about it, and then changes happen, which is also something that we should change. We are not in a role where things should happen only when something big has to happen, then only things should change. So I think what
Yeah.
you said is perfectly correlating to what is should happen in the industry. I have one more question. We can see between road safety and let's say airline industry. We don't see any major accidents happening in the airline industry nowadays. Become like almost nil. right? There are thousands, or if not thousands, like thousands of flights flying daily within India, outside India, everywhere. But the number of accidents that have happened are like negligible. But when we talk about road safety, every day somewhere or the other some accidents are happening, buses are falling, so a lot of issues are there. What is the difference between a airline industry and a road industry? Like, why are airlines able to manage it, and why roads, our government who is managing the roads, or even private players, they are not able to manage the road safety that well? What is the core difference, if you can share some lights on it?
Okay. Now look at the first thing, probably the size, the number per se. How many aircrafts versus how many road transport vehicles? That is a huge difference. And second is that people, unfortunately, in spite of many road incidents, somehow we fail to learn, because as a culture, most of us human beings are reactive in nature.
Right.
Whereas somehow in airline, there is a proactive way of managing safety. That's, an air hostess announces as you enter into the aircraft, the safety features in the flight, but the conductor doesn't do that, the driver doesn't do it, for example. So why? Because most of the road situation is, most of the people there are reactive in nature. Uh, Another example, when Mr. Gopinath Munde died on the road, for some time there was some discussion about seat belt in the car. A seat belt could have saved a minister
Right.
in 2014. Then the similar discussions happened 2022, I think, when Cyrus
Silent
Mistry
mystery,
ji
yeah.
incident happened. There was discussion everywhere you go, people use this safety message as seat belt, value of seat belt.
Right.
But now I don't think, we still have certain percentage of people who feel uncomfortable wearing seat belt.
And wear it when policeman is there in front.
Policeman
Yeah.
is there. There are situations when I sit in the back seat of the car and request the driver with a lot of respect, very, sir, I mean, can you please put your seat belt also? Because I searched my seat belt in the back seat. Now I have one, it's dirty, but I'm still using it. But why not you use it in the front? Unka immediate response, इधर का जरूरत नहीं है
uh,
साहब,
right.
ये गांव में नहीं तो ये सिटी में सीट बेल्ट का जरूरत नहीं। उनको 5 मिनट हम कंसल्टिंग देना पड़ता है, नहीं तो मेंटरिंग देना पड़ता है सीट बेल्ट का वैल्यू को।
Hmm.
वो पहनता है, फिर भी बार बार गाड़ी रुकता है तब
They will.
निकाल देता है, बाद में टू वेयर हिम अगेन वी हैव टू टेल, एज लॉन्ग एज आई एम इन द कार, यू आर इन द कार, लेट अस वेयर इट। देन व्हेन वी लीव द कार, आई टेल हिम, at least you remember me, in addition to my tips, remember me for this tip of seat belt. So this is what I think in road safety, that's the issue. How this can improve? This can improve by following something which some countries like Australia has perfected, that bring in the thought of safety right from school days.
Okay.
The children, when they go to the school, they are taught about safety,
Okay.
and safety is given to them as a discipline. So children, following safety for them is following
So
discipline.
is it like a course, or how does it work?
It's integrated in the course. It
Oh,
is integrated into the course, integrated into the thinking of the child.
okay.
Because I have a live example, real life example. You know, I was in, I think it was in Melbourne, when the boy was playing a ball, and then the ball came out of his compound, and then he was standing inside the compound and then requesting the people going on the road. I know in Melbourne you don't have so many people
Right.
going on the
Right.
road. There are very few people walk. Sir, can you throw the ball in? We said, just why not you come out and take it? Because being in India, after we go there, we walk on the road. We like to
Right.
walk on the road. For short distance, we don't hire cabs. So fortunately, we were a couple of guys who were walking on the road, and then the child asked, "Can you throw the ball in?" So he said, "Why not you come on take it?" He said, "No, I'm not allowed to cross the compound when my parents are not there."
Right.
Young age, the discipline is taught to them. So I think I have also seen many of the defensive driving material coming from Australia, which again tells me that they have and like at least in early 2000 middle 2000 tak, I know Australia used to give a lot of leading material on safety. Probably it's continuing now also. So I think that sort of a thinking has to start. How do we build safety from the school days? Probably is one way we can improve road safety.
I wa- I was thinking from a human perspective, from a psychological perspective. When you go in a flight, if a turbulence
Ah,
happens or if the
chances
flight
of,
crashes, the
so that's
probability
why
of
safety should
survival
be
is
very
zero.
important.
Really.
True.
So when we take a car, we go half a
And we are safe.
kilometer, we come back, and we do that
Right.
thousands of times. So in our brain, we are wired that why this is not risky. There is
Correct.
no risk here. But when we are sitting in an aircraft,
Right.
it's like a stage. You go there 3 hours early. You have to go through multiple stuff. And when you are told wear your seatbelt,
Because you don't want to
you
take
do it.
risk. What will happen if something really happens, right? Yeah.
And I'm based in Chennai. So when an aircraft lands Chennai, before it finds its aero bridge, the population in the aircraft will be standing up to pull the
Right.
bag out. There, they get liberated. It's a liberated spirit
Then it
feeling.
becomes like a road mentality. No longer,
So,
yeah,
Yes, once you land,
but like what they don't realize is that to get into the bus, if it is aero bridge, okay. But after you come into the luggage area, to get your baggage, you have to still wait, and the prioritization is not yours. It is your bag may be the last to come. So why stand there? But still,
yes, and in some countries, when plane lands,
yeah.
people clap. In India, we don't do that, but in some countries, they clap. We
is
have
it happening
achieved
nowadays
something.
Did
also,
you
or is it like it was like when did it start? How did it start? I understand it would be happening earlier when there were too many accidents happening and people would be celebrating that. But nowadays the accidents are not there, no.
Yeah, so some
Now it has
countries
become
have this
part of
culture.
their culture, I guess.
Yeah, so in specific countries, I don't remember the exact names. Maybe I don't have, I should not name any country, but in India, we don't do it. But we inside
Right.
feel
yeah.
really happy, confident.
On airline, I just for the benefit of you guys, and assuming the people who are listening to this in podcast, go and look at a recent video of early January about people, the Japanese airline aircraft. There were two aircraft collision, and
Yeah.
one had large 200 or 300, nearly 300 people, and the way they got out of the aircraft, it's very well documented. The Japanese airline
Yeah, that was a
miraculous
miraculous.
escape,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
that is a beautiful video, talks about again how discipline builds safety, and how safety can be ensured by building discipline.
So basically, it has a lot to do with the kind of learnings that we have when we are younger, right? So a
Yes.
lot has to
Yes.
change when we. It's hard to change when we become older, right? So it's hard to wear seatbelt when we are not wearing seatbelt for 20 years, but it is easy to do that when you are just starting up.
Or
Or
when you have a lifetime
experience,
experience which you don't want to
yeah,
remember. And I know people who have started wearing crash helmets or seat belts after an accident where they lost a close
right, right,
person.
right,
And that we don't want people to have that pain, but that seems to be the second only way
right.
other than education.
So we like recently there was one accident that was there in Gujarat, right? Such a sad accident because of simple some welding work was going on, some material was there below the welding point. The person who was working above didn't see that caught fire, and then that basically became like a big accident where some kids also so many kids also lost their life, right? So does that always happen because of carelessness? Is it because we in India tend to be not calculative enough of what kind of issues might happen because of the work that I am doing? Is that the reason why that kind of an accident happens?
Very good.
A small thought, I was listening to the question. In India, please correct me if I'm wrong, there is this
Right.
chalta hai attitude. Sometimes we don't take proactive. measures?
Yeah. So is it because of our, I believe that if such an accident happens where so many people lose their life, or let's say, for example, there was one recent accident which happened in Delhi because of flooding with in an area where normally no flooding ever happens, right? So ideally these kind of accidents should bring a lot of change in the industry, right? So we should start learning from them. Like, how do we learn from such accidents and make sure that these accidents do not happen? Like, what, I don't see any changes happening anywhere. There is no regulation that has changed. No way. Like, even now, I don't see people responding to it in a way that they should be responding to a major accident that has happened. Do we need a major, like a big accident where hundreds and thousands of people are dying, then only changes will come? So this is something that I am not sure. Like, why do we need to wait for such a big accident to happen? We have to be proactive. Is it just India, or is it common across the world?
See, actually, I would not be too negative about the situation even in India. The number of people probably dying has gone up. But again, related to the scale of manufacturing that has gone up.
Right.
Like, and when you compare with the scale, there is no excuse. Definitely, one death is too many. But still, I think India as a country is managing accidents much better than how India. I'm focusing only on the manufacturing sector. Let's come to the road safety, which is a different
Right.
ball game. It's a general public ball game. But let's talk about the manufacturing industry perspective, where it's a more
Okay.
controllable environment. The scaling up of manufacturing has happened, and I really don't think the number of death or number of injuries has proportionately gone up. Many of the large scale manufacturing,
Right.
when people move up, they start thinking about safety much more. Today, safety is in
Right.
the boardroom discussion of many of the companies, and it is not just stopping at discussions. Now that discussions are leading to action, people are looking for solutions. Yes, cost sometimes is considered, but most of the times cost is not the only consideration when it comes to safety today. That's a good thing. Yes, we do have lack of knowledge at certain pockets, and there is a lot of effort happening, but I'm not sure whether there is a coherent effort happening, which is the one you are now trying to do, is probably one of the potential solution. People talk about it and talk about it more in this sort of a medium, and it is not everything, and there is a coherent thinking to that. So that's, so to answer you, yes, India deaths are happening, but it's not as many as they used to happen earlier. I don't have a statistical evidence either way, but that's my perception. Second thing is, the many of the larger corporates are looking at safety differently, and as I said, they are looking for solutions. Solutions are not just systems and processes. Solutions, manufacturing technology we said,
Right.
systems and processes said, people is the third one we said. Systems and processes are not the only solutions, and I think Indian industry has to realize that, because we try and cut and paste something which is happening elsewhere and apply into our situation. This cut and paste management systems are not the solution. It has to be
Right.
customized for the situations in each company, and that's a lot of work. You have to learn from outside, but you have to customize to yourself. Second, technology use. I'm not talking about manufacturing technology. I'm talking about the technology like AI, IoT, or the new technology solutions, drones, AR, VR, different ways of training people, different IT tools which people can use. Those are there in the larger companies, but not, again, consistently. And that is, I think, big opportunity. At the same time, also a big potential, but a lot of work to do. Again, the people who have the solution, as per my knowledge, the people who have the solution are the small 15 people, 20 people, 30 people companies, and they have the solution, but they don't have the reach to the market. But the people who need the market are the 3,000, 5,000 size companies. For them, these people are too small. They don't give that respect. This is my perception. When you go to a company and say that I have 20 people and they say I have 5,000 people, there is a difference, not only people, but also rupees revenues. So I think, how do we bring these players who have the solution, the 20 something players, and then how we take it to the 5,000, 10,000 manufacturing population people? That I think is another area where our opportunity.
I think now with the help of AI, right? I don't think it matters a lot, like number of people. So I was reading about some thumb rule. They say that out of n people that you employ, your final productivity that comes out to be
Mm,
is around square root
mm,
of n of employees. For example, if you have 1,000 people or 100 people, so square root of n would be 10. If you have 10 people,
nine
or
people,
let's
nine
say you
people.
have for the
Yeah, okay.
ease of calculation 16 people, it will be 3 or 4, right? 9 would be 3, 4 will be 16. Then between 3 and 10 there is not much of a difference, right? It's obviously very it's 2 times or 3 times, but still it is not that huge of a difference as it seems when you look at a 100 people and a 9 people organization, right? So that is, and with the advent of AI and all the technology solutions that we are currently having, AI, initially when people were working on AI, they thought they will be implementing AI in solving the lower end of the work spectrum. So they will be automating, let's say, the worker working in the field, that part will be automated, or some other part will be automated. But rather than automating that part, they are automating the topmost layer of the so coders work is getting automated now. So that is where things are changing, and I'm seeing it, the number of people, small teams can do lot of work now. So you don't need a 100, 200, 300 member team or a 500 member team to build a solution. You can make it with 20. WhatsApp was built with just a team of 55 people, right? And so many other companies, with technology, with the help of so many other mediums that we have, it's not necessary you need a large team. So I believe a lot of changes will happen when we go ahead also in the industry that we are targeting, let's say the manufacturing industry as well. Many of the things that we feel is, or the calculations that we do, let's say 1,000 people, 10,000 people, that is
Sure,
definitely going to change now. And that's
sure.
what
I,
my
I
understanding
didn't just
from
mean
whatever I
the
have
number
seen.
of people, I also mean the size of companies, the ability of
Right.
the smaller team which has a solution to meet with the larger team which has a problem. That we need to do something on it. Is it happening? Yes. Is it good enough? I don't think so. Lot of thing needs to happen there, is what I'm saying. Like, for example, I was in one of the largest ports of India uh, 2 years back.
Hmm.
I was there camping for a week on a consulting assignment or a coaching assignment. I had an opportunity to meet with 20 something guys in the same hotel. And what they are doing, they
Okay.
are providing various options of using drones to solve people problem.
Right.
This company was from Chennai. They are
Oh,
into
okay.
drones, and they are there in the port
Right.
company. I don't want to name the company. They were
Right.
there physically looking at
Right.
various problems which they can solve. I
To
was
solve.
very happy that
Right.
such a
Right.
large
Yeah.
company could give an opportunity to these three young guys to look at their problems and solutions. It was actually, they have set up a
Right.
separate group of people to look at futuristic problem and futuristic solution. And so they
Right.
involve this sort of talent, and they
Right.
get this sort of talent by visiting, say, IIT Chennai or NASA. Other than a few large corporates, everybody is doing it, and it's not difficult for every company to do it, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's what I mean. So look at that controllable environment. That sort
Right.
of a collaboration reach probably has to happen, in my opinion, to take the technology solution to manufacturing
True.
safety problem associated with manufacturing.
Right. I agree. So we have been fortunate enough, and I think a lot has to be said about the schemes that were launched by Government of India. After that, it became a lot easier to connect with large companies. Startup India and a lot of such initiatives were there. This is definitely true. Things are changing. A lot of big companies are coming to smaller companies now because they know the smaller teams or smaller companies have an advantage. They are not bundled down with processes. If a big company is there, for finding any solution, they have thousands of extra processes that are also there along with it. That basically makes the process of innovation slower. The innovation will still happen in a big company, but the process will become a little slowed down. A small company can do in a couple of years, the big company will take 4 or 5 years. So that is why a lot of big companies are coming forward to interact with small companies, and that's where we also are getting a benefit out of it, because I have heard stories of people not even able to reach big companies
Sure.
to show their solutions, because either some big other company has come before them and they have promised something to them, and they take 5 years for it. And now they are willing to spend some time with you, show you the problem statement. For me, the biggest learning was that now it is easier for people to identify the problem, and people are open for showing, as you were saying, like the port example that you gave, inviting them to their facility and showing them the problem statement, when the person who is doing that work could be doing anything else that might be part of the productivity
Sure.
of the organization, but he is taking
Sure.
out time to do this. So that shows a lot of change happening on the ground from both the startup side as well as the organization side. And a lot of mediums, that NASCOM and a lot of other IITs have their own incubation centers. Other colleges have also come up with their own incubation centers. They help a lot in this, making the first connections, making the first places where this kind of an connection can happen. And this is something that I think we are also trying to solve with this podcast series. Like, the idea is not just to, because a lot of problems are there in various kind of industries. We talked about the road safety issue, we talked about other accidents that have happened, but we have to come up with solutions for them. It's not just one company kind of a role, or it's not just one startup can solve it, right? The idea is to first create some kind of an awareness in the community. Okay, these kind of issues are there, and it's not that we don't have solutions. It's just that we don't have either people who are taking the idea and solving it, or we don't have the resources. So that these are the two things that we need to work on. And that is where I feel that this kind of a podcast series that we are doing will help in connecting people. Maybe people who are having solutions in some other domain can think of implementing it in safety and other similar kind of domain, safety, security and all. Or people or companies who have certain problem statement can use such kind of a podcast to make sure that podcast or that problem
Sure.
statement comes out to the open, right? So that is where we feel that this kind of a podcast series is adding some value to the ecosystem.
Sure. This
We
is
should
very good,
start with it.
actually. Just to add, maybe Amber, you can consider this for a future possibility wherein I think making the first connection is not so difficult. Making the first meeting is not so
Right.
difficult. Yes, it is not easy, but it's not so difficult. But post that, the you very correctly said, the large companies have a process, the smaller companies are nibble, they don't have a process, and that's a problem. There is a disconnect
Right.
because the large companies will expect responses based on the process they know, because that's the world they have seen, whereas the smaller companies will be
Right.
responding based on the way they were doing things, because that's what is their world. And there is a disconnect, and that disconnect
Right.
has to be understood, and I'm not sure that is happening. If I can elaborate, the large companies after the first meeting expect certain things to be done as per certain timeline, because that is what is the task he has committed to his
Right.
bosses. So I will do this in
Right.
30 days, I will do it in 60 days, I will do it in 90 days. He will have a plan, which is a structure, which is a process. But the smaller company will look at it very differently. Largest companies start with 5 year plan to they do
Definitely.
it, and they do the short term plan, long term
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all
So
that.
they have
So
capex
that
cycle, lot of
is what
issue,
they will
all that.
be. This language and this language, in my opinion, are different. Both are English, but both are different. And that could be
Right.
something podcast like this can surface and see whether there are something which can do better, because this is happening in many companies. I can give you evidence that the promises made and the delivery gap is there. Because of the gap, credibility goes, trust goes, and this guy has promised many things to his bosses, and so he has egg on his face, and this guy doesn't understand that, and he thinks in his own world something will happen. So wo bahut hai. So the first connect happens in that government meetings or that forum for startups. First connect हो जाता है. उसके बाद उसके बाद
Now it is, yeah, right.
I was listening very carefully about the conversation, and we were talking a lot about big companies, big companies. To run a business, to make it profitable, there are multiple ways. Either you target the top tier firms, or you play in the middle tier, or you target the lower part. So, to develop an everlasting business, this question is for both of you. Can we just target the Fortune 500 companies, or do we need to think about how to change perspective of SMEs towards safety?
So we would love to serve SMEs also. There are lakhs of SMEs in India, and if everybody takes safety seriously, then obviously there would be a large market for it. It's just that SMEs have their own challenges, right? The reason why they are small, medium, and enterprises and micro now is because they have a lack of funds, right? So for them, working on providing the salary for, let's say, the 5 to 10 people that they employ is of paramount importance, because that is how these 10 people are running their homes, right? In the Maslow's pyramid, hierarchical pyramid, which is first is the basic layer that you need to satisfy the basic need of fooding, clothing, and shelter, right? So that is the basic thing that has to be satisfied, right? It's just that the cost involved to make it into a safe environment might be very high for some of these companies to work with. It might be easier for people outside India to do it because there the wages are higher. Even a 10 people team is still having a lot of revenues, right? So 10 people, if you're paying them even their minimum wages also, that's also a huge number. But in India, when you're working at 10,000, 15,000 rupees, which is $200, not even $200, right, per month. So for a small company, that becomes major thing to work on. So they have to ensure that, okay, at least the basic for productivity is happening. People are able to operate whatever machines are there; those are working properly. There are issues with, so there are other issues that they are dealing first before they think about safety per se. When we think of productivity and safety in silos, which is what normally people do, they feel that if you start spending money on improving the safety of an organization, you are taking away money from productivity of the organization. For example, if I have 4 machines and I have 1 lakh rupee, maybe I will invest that 1 lakh rupee to buy a fifth machine rather than investing in improving the culture or the processes per se. And I'm sure there are a lot of regulations right now already in place, which, if implemented properly, safety can and should be capable enough to, like, we can reach to the SMEs as well. It's just that the either they are not being implemented, and I understand the reasoning for it also, because once you start implementing certain structure, it will cause a lot of chaos in the industry, in the sense that to do that you will have to find people. There are companies who will go under because of it, or there might be a lot of hue and cry about it and things like that. It should happen, and how it should happen, that is something that the government or the organization who is monitoring the regulations, they have to do it. And one more point here, I believe that regulations have to be independent of the government. So if you have government interference, government has a lot of other incentives to work on. For example, they will be looking for votes from these people, right? So they may not be willing to bring in laws which are contrary to what the people want. So if, let's say, somebody wants like leaner structures or not so many regulations, because that is easier to manage, and if instead the safety regulation is opposite of that, right, you are trying to increase the complexity of the structure, there might be scenarios where the government may not be able to take that action until we have a separate or independent organization which works independently completely. and then that has the power to bring in these kind of regulations, then only things will change. For the foreseeable future, I feel that it is very hard to bring in SMEs into the scope. Maybe you guys can share your thoughts and then.
Yeah, actually, Vikram, I heard you, but
Right.
I don't fully agree with you.
Okay.
Not that what you said is wrong, but I think that was what was the thought of the past.
Okay.
But again, going back to where we started, if India, we want to be the 21st century country, the
Right.
country which is going to lead the manufacturing, SMEs are there and SMEs are important. Safety is one of the business parameter for any businessman. It is always cost benefit, right?
Right.
So when as a businessman I have benefit more than the cost, I will go for it. If my cost is more than the benefit, I'm not a businessman if I take it. So unfortunately, there is a bogey that the cost is high to be safe, where
Hmm.
people are not talking about the benefit.
Hmm.
Simple example, I think Swiggy and Blinkit and all these people who are providing logistic services, they should invest much more on road safety for their people. Today they are all provided with helmets, but are they, when they are driving on the road, are they defensive? Probably sometimes they are rushing to deliver and
Going.
leading, doing
Yeah.
wrong side and doing everything wrong. It used to happen earlier with those pizza companies which were delivering within 20 minutes. Now everything has to be delivered within 10 minutes, within 5 minutes. Even large corporates are there, but when I look at those advertisements saying we will deliver within several minutes, I think they are giving a tendency to compromise on road safety to their people. And unfortunately, there the benefit of delivering fast is being considered, but the cost of doing that, I really don't think they have considered. If only they can think about the potential accident and potential cost of that accident to the family of the guy who is doing that delivery, probably the behavior will change. As an example, most of these small companies are companies who are the contractors to large companies. I'm not talking about SME now, I'm talking about even in large companies, lot of contract job is happening, and these jobs are being done by the small companies, same 15,000 rupees pay what you said, and people are doing the highly hazardous things at a low pay, and for them safety is nothing beyond, in some cases even not there, but in most of the cases it is nothing beyond a helmet and a shoe. Is that the way they have to approach safety? They are in an environment where their entire body has to be protected from the hot molten metal or a highly dangerous chemical. Are they protecting it? And what is the cost of not doing it? I think that's where the paradigm shift in thinking you rightly addressed. Maybe education at the college level, the engineers when they come in, they have to look at these things in differently. I think that is what we need to do, and I think as Indian, each one of us who is in the safety industry should make that possible, make that happen. And again, when we do it, we also need to consider cost is not, many times the cost is overplayed and the benefit is underplayed. We need to do that properly. So it's neither notional cost or notional benefit, both has to be for the nation. So it is national cost and national benefit we need to talk about. So in my opinion, that sort of a paradigm shift is necessary. And so sectors, not only SMEs, many of the contractors, many of this, I mean, logistics industry today, we talked about road safety earlier. Today road safety issues are being created by this logistic industry with this sort of a delivery. And I really don't think we have built sort of a expectation in the minds of the consumer that when I think something I want it immediately, there is also a cost to it, and that can kill somebody.
Yes, yeah, very true, very true. This is an ongoing development, and we should talk more about this topic. Thank you, Vikram, for your thoughts, and thank you, sir, for giving us your thoughts. Before we close our podcast for today, I would like to request the parting remarks. So, Vikram, you can go first.
So, so what I understood from the discussion that we had today is that a lot of things can change and will change in the future. I'm sure there are a lot of changes already happening, but we have to create proper mechanisms for it. For example, as sir was saying, teaching people from young age about why safety is important, making safety, not just consider safety as a item which saves life, but also to consider it as an operational risk management thing, right? So that is the core. So until unless we think in that way, we start thinking of safety in terms of operations, or safety not just in workplaces but also throughout your life, or throughout every aspect of your life, right? Then only we will be making changes in our environment or in our society. And so that is what I understood. Apart from that, some changes will happen. I'm sure they will happen because newer technologies are coming, and technology will bring a lot of change. Nothing can solve if there is no motivation to do it, right? There has to be some effort towards that direction, and it's the people who are either working on solutions or who have a solution. They should be able to reach out to problems and the places where problems are there, right? That key of connection is very important, and that is what I feel that if we are able to achieve either through this podcast or some other mechanism, we have done a good service to the ecosystem.
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed being in this discussion for nearly more than an hour now. And it's really, for me, also refreshing many of my thoughts. But I believe things will change, as Vikram has said. We don't have a choice. Things will change, and safety will be seen differently, because that's the only way we can become a 21st century leading country. Each companies, each person in the business have to start looking at safety not as a cost but as a business value. And only people who are looking at safety that way will be the winners. So it is not a compulsion or a compromise for anybody in the industry to look at safety as a business value, but it is necessary. Otherwise, it's a precondition to be in business, and that is what is going to happen. So I am very confident about it. India as a country, we have leapfrogged in many things. Mobile telephony is an example which we keep talking about. When everybody else was spending money for optical fiber cable, we were not doing it. But when the mobile came, it was actually easy for us to bypass optical fiber cable. That way, I think our safety thinking also will be bypassing many things which other countries learned it in a hard way, and then we can learn newer things and do it. And forums like this, where we open up and talk, is going to help us in that leapfrog, and we will be able to achieve or use the new things. New technologies is actually, whether you look at AR, VR, or IoT, or AI, or drones, or every other subject which is in the new technology which will have a play in safety, is everything is new for every country, including for India. So if we do something, we will have a global market. If they do something on safety, they will be doing something for the global market. Incidentally, India will be benefiting from the global market, and I think that is how it will be. And thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you. That was an amazing discussion. Thanks, Vikram, and thanks, Ganesh sir, for giving your time today. I encourage our listeners to send in their questions in the comment section below and connect with us on LinkedIn. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful
Thank
evening.
you.